During the 1960s, it was commonly known that the white society were the evil villains and African Americans were their victims. Today, the white society is now commonly perceived as being the higher moral victims, while African Americans are often seen as the villains. This shifting of victimization in behalf of the white society is by deliberate design. During the 1960s, African Americans were also a very dignified people pursuing human rights that we should have been born with. Today, many African Americans now undignifiedly calls ourselves niggers, thugs, bitches, and hoes, sags our pants, and twerks in the street. The fact that the behaviors of many African Americans have literally become aligned with the white society's racist internal narratives about us that claims that we're an undignified people that are not worthy of full human rights is also by deliberate design. These outcomes that benefits the U.S. system of white supremacy were both deliberately achieved through white media social engineering. The media has the power to influence minds, ideas, behaviors, and attitudes of the masses and targeted populations, and it has been weaponized against African Americans. Through media social engineering, the public perception of African Americans is being kept negative, and the African American culture is being negatively steered by white oppressive forces. This is not some feeble-minded conspiracy theory. It's the truth that they hide from us. The subliminal manipulation of the conscious minds of the masses and targeted population through media social engineering is now a science that the white ruling class have completely mastered. Media social engineering is a real and well-crafted nefarious system that has been weaponized against African Americans. The white media has always represented a tyranny of the white society's power over Black people. First, here is how and why they turn African Americans into the villains of the society. The process is called shifting of victimization. Dr. King's nonviolent protest strategies worked as planned. Once those images of African Americans being brutalized with fire hoses, police batons, canine dogs, for merely peacefully seeking to be treated with the basic principles of human dignity were aired on America's nightly news, they gained national and global support for the plight of African Americans. The success of the 1960s civil rights movement was greatly due to the national and global support that was attained by Dr. King's nonviolent strategies. The global responses in support of African Americans were immense. Dr. King was even awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. African Americans were favorably perceived by millions of people around the world as being a dignified people pursuing an equality that we should have been born with. These global responses in support of African Americans totally embarrassed the U.S. government. It also eroded its global image and standing around the world. White oppressive forces realized then that to continue their subjugation of African Americans, it had become necessary to falsely tarnish our image to create consent for the mistreatment of African Americans. They therefore deployed a propaganda campaign against African Americans called manufactured consent to mistreat. Manufactured consent to mistreat is when the oppressors wants to create societal consent for their mistreatment of the oppressed. They use the media to portray the oppressed as being a major problem of the society through manufactured false news reports. They vilify, criminalize, and dehumanize the oppressed in order to create a consensual national setting that justifies their mistreatment of the oppressed. It's an old Nazi propaganda tactic that was also used in Germany against the Jews. It's presently being deployed against African Americans. Through lies and manufactured news reports, African Americans are being made to appear as a major problem of the white society. We're being falsely criminalized and vilified. This creates prejudice, distorted perceptions, and incriminating beliefs about the Black population that are designed to make the nation and the entire world insensitive to our plight, tranquilize effort on our behalf, and it makes any serious criticism of white racism now almost impossible. These deplorable depictions are intentionally designed to create a shifting of victimization on behalf of the white society and to lessen pressures for social changes in behalf of the Black population. When contempt of Black people is made to appear to be justifiable, this creates conditioned responses within the nation that allows eventualities to unfold against the Black population without opposition or resentment. This is very evident within the U.S. criminal justice system, in which the Black population are disproportionately incarcerated, given stiffer sentences, and are more likely than any other racial group to be treated brutally, beaten, and fired upon by police officers while unarmed. These injustices are now most often ignored because the perception has become collectively that it's all justified. This manufactured consent propaganda campaign is also the reason why cops can routinely kill unarmed Black people and avoid prosecution by merely saying that they were in fear of losing their lives when they committed the act. This propaganda campaign is also the reason why millions of foreigners come to the U.S. looking down upon African Americans. They literally arrive within the U.S. with negative preconceptions about African Americans because of media propaganda. This is how and why they turn African Americans into the villains of society. Now, here's how millions of our behaviors became aligned with the white society's racist narratives about us. Most people naively believe that the media reflects our reality, but in truth, it's more often we that imitate what we see and learn from the media. A group's identity is greatly shaped by how they see themselves being repeatedly depicted within the media. People often becomes those derogatory media depictions of themselves that they've accepted as being their reality. It's a true science known as media social engineering. Whoever controls a people's media image controls their culture. Because the white society controls the media images of African Americans, this fact allows white social science and propaganda designers to negatively steer our culture. Their ability to steer Black culture through media social engineering is immensely powerful. We African Americans are more susceptible to media social engineering because we were totally stripped of our true identity and culture during the enslavement of our ancestors. When these white social engineering scientists create trends and customs for Black youths to imitate, they deliberately create those that fits their racist internal narratives about us. They also create images that gets our Black youths acting and dressing as caricatures that reinforces resentment and anti-Black attitudes towards us. Moreover, those images that reinforces many negative racist stereotypes about Black people. Black youths become those caricatures and derogatory images of ourselves that they've accepted. The narrative that we African Americans made the N-word ours and that usually empowers us are both lies created by white propagandists to keep us from learning the truth. The true reason why millions of African Americans now self-identify ourselves as niggers is actually the result of media social engineering. It is a testament to the immense power of media social engineering. Words put a spell upon our subconscious minds. We function based upon the words we assign to ourselves. This is why women that proclaim themselves as being bitches often become stubbornly unreasonable. It's also why men that proclaim themselves as being thugs are more likely to engage in a fight than to avoid a fight. Words affect how we function. This is a psychological phenomenon that white oppressive forces, white social science have thoroughly studied. They condition us to call ourselves niggers because when we call ourselves niggers, we are now functioning from a false inherent subordinate identity that condition us to accept a subordinate status within the white dominant society. Also, when we call each other niggers, we dehumanize each other. It makes it easier to hurt each other, to kill each other. They place an elaborate spell upon us through the N-word and through media social engineering. It's time to wake up to our reality. Our plot has nothing to do with a biblical fairy tale or a silly slave syndrome. The white society are deploying media social engineering to negatively affect how we're perceived and to negatively steer our culture. It's time to wake up to our reality. One love and peace.